Hi, April. Just getting everybody logged on. Get everybody in here. We'll get started. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions today. I'm sure of it. Hello, good morning. I'm still letting people in. If somebody has a question they want to ask why I'm doing this part, please feel free to ask it. If you don't want everybody to hear your conversation in the background, please make sure you're muted because we can hear somebody back there. So if you don't want us to hear your conversation, please mute you. And if you want to ask a question, please unmute you and ask away. It's warmer today. I just want to say that.
Exactly right. Yeah, I filled out some, and again, that may be some of the things that they may need some additional information on and that sort of thing. And
oops,
and I just wanted to.
We can hear somebody's phone conversation. Give us your credit card number. That's what we're waiting for. Getting. Good morning, you guys. I know we have a lot of questions with the Senate bill that's come about and what is being put upon us right now. This is what I could say. I hope everybody disclosed to their tenants by the last day of February what their rights are regarding SB 91. Very, very important that we did that. We are not going to be able to apply for the 80% of the loss of income due to the pandemic unless we have given the tenant that disclosure. We're also not going to be able to evict for non-payment until after June 30th if we did not do that. So just so you know what you're up against. Starting to get a lot of questions regarding the money. I don't have those answers. I don't know what they're going to ask us for when we apply. I don't know what those steps are going to be until I actually get knee deep in it. So good luck. Good luck to all of us, right? Set your alarms, 5 a.m. I don't know what kind of questions they're going to ask for the money. I do know that this is the most ideal scenario for both the landlord and the tenant. If you go this route, the tenant doesn't know anything. So there's money that just disappears there. So very, very important that we take note that this benefits the tenants, because if we get the 80%, they owe absolutely nothing. We're done here. So it should be relatively easy for you guys to get your tenants to participate.
Hole 8, par 3, 427 feet, slightly downhill. OB water, obviously, at the very beginning.
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Around on the basket.
Somebody needs to press mute. We can hear you. Somebody had a question about where do you get the application to apply for the 80%? It is actually online. It is at housingiskey.com. That's housing is key, KEY.com. Housingiskey.com. And I can't mute people. I don't have this in a classroom setting. I wish I could, but I can't. You guys have to mute and unmute yourselves. Hold on. Maybe I can figure out who it is. Oh, now it's getting quiet. I'm on the hunt. Who is it? Okay, it got quiet now.
Oh, no. Don't.
Oh, no, it didn't. Somebody's still yip yapping.
John.
Okay.
I think John Wilson is the person who's not muted.
Okay, I'm trying.
This isn't
I'm going to find him.
It's slow enough.
I found him.
Down. Slow, stay slow. Okay.
I can't mute him. I can't mute him. I can't do nothing. Hey, John, could you please mute yourself? We'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right, you guys. Just want to make sure that you understand you apply for the money on housingiskey.com. That is where we apply for those funds. Housing, HOUSING is IS key, KEY. Housingiskey.com. Do not, I repeat, do not use any of those notices that are available on the website. They, forgive me for saying this, okay? the government is setting whoever uses those up for actual use, they're setting them up for failure. If you read the disclaimer on the notices, it clearly states that they're not suitable for a court of law. They're suggesting you contact legal counsel. You guys all know that those notices aren't good just by looking at the 15-day notice. You know that we have to give dates, times, name a person that they can pay the rent to. The notices that are on this website don't have any of that information. Therefore, the notices are invalid. Yes, the government is setting people up for failure. Go figure. But they're not valid notices. Even though they're marked by the Department of Real Estate, you think that they'd have documents that would withstand or uphold in a courtroom, and they are not. Okay, if you read the disclaimer on them, they tell you they're there for an example and not to use them. Contact your legal counsel or even a tenant advocate group. Go figure. Also says you can contact your apartment association. But those are not valid notices on that website. Please do not use them. Do not entertain the idea of using them because they were provided by the government thinking they're going to help you. Unfortunately, those documents are invalid in a court of law. They don't have a lot of California civil procedure as quoted per California civil procedure 1162. Subparagraph 2 isn't covered. So just rewind everything I said and just know this. Don't use the documents on that website. They're no good, okay? They are toilet paper, simply said, but they're not in compliance with the law. Kind of dumbfounds me that the government would actually set you up for failure, but that's what's happening. So be careful of that. Don't use those documents. Just so everybody understands that. Again, have your APN number handy. I don't know that you're going to need it, but the way my little blonde brain works is if we pay them our taxes every year and they don't recognize our address, they only recognize the APN number. My thinking is, isn't that how they would pay us then if they don't recognize our address and only recognize the APN number? So don't be surprised if you're going to need that in order to apply for the money. And I would have it handy. It's just the way my brain works, you guys, sorry. Think of what you possibly may need. And if you have it and you don't need it, I'm sorry, but I tried. I'm trying to help you guys make sure all your ducks are in a line so that you can get that money in your pocket as quickly as possible to avoid foreclosure. I mean, let's just face it. That's what we're up against if something doesn't change here. Have a feeling that come July 1st, we will be back to business as normal. Yes, I know. I said that. I haven't said that in 16 months. It feels really good to know that come July 1st, if we don't have our rents on July 2nd, we should be able to serve a 3-day to pay rent or quit. No more COVID protections. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see it being extended again. If anything, I would say that LA County might do some kind of an extension or something. But for the most part, I think we're going to open up and go back to business as normal. We still got a few months in front of us, 3 months in front of us or so. Hopefully they can figure it out by then. For those of you that don't want to participate in the government program, the 80-20 money, okay? I have this to say to you. Why? Please, I'd love a good explanation as to why you don't want to take the government handout. And hear me out, please. And I'll let you speak, but I want to prove a point. This is a decent program from what I'm seeing. It's not a loan. We don't have to pay it back. We forgive 20% of our rents. We take 80%, the tenant's off the hook. Everything goes back to normal starting July 1st. That's how I see it. The other side of it that nobody wants to talk about is the 25-75%. If you don't participate in the government's program or neither party qualifies, yada, 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 yada. Here's the problems I see with that. Tenant pays 25% and the 75% balance becomes consumer debt. You can only sue in small claims court to get that money. And you need to understand that any judgments made in small claims on COVID rental debt are unassignable. What does that mean in simple English? You as the landlord have to do the wage garnishment. You have to do the writ of execution. You have to. Somebody else can't do it for you. Not your legal counsel and not a collection agency. You have to collect this debt yourself. It is unassignable. I know lots of legal counsel is going to start doing document preparation because that's how they're going to help you and still get paid. Just saying. So we may see a lot of that in the near future, starting in August. I encourage all of you, if you can apply for the government's money and it's on the table, take it, because they're not helping nail salons. They're not helping restaurants. They're not helping hair studios. Okay. They're helping landlords. And the reason they're helping landlords is because if they don't do something, half the state's going to be homeless. So it's the government's answer to give you 80% so that you keep that tenant there. Otherwise, everybody's going to do an eviction. Everybody's fed up with the bureaucracy and bullshit that's going on right now, and nobody wants to deal with this. That being said, everybody's just going to go to eviction court. And we're already seeing the courts get slowed down tremendously. Everybody talks about eviction openly and knows that they can go get an eviction. But when you guys say, well, I'll just call my attorney and start an eviction, I don't think you understand that means currently, right now. Evictions in LA County are taking 6 months uncontested. 6 months uncontested. If they contest you, you could be looking at 9 months to a year to get possession. That's not justice. That is just us. That is us trying to figure out how to keep that balance right, how to get that money coming in so that we're not drowning, and how to recuperate from this. Because at the end of the day, we need to reboot and reload and start over again. Just saying. So you guys get ready for July 1. I have a feeling we're going to get a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit back. Yee! That's going to make me really happy. Sorry. This 15-day notice stuff is for the birds. God, I could have you already served by the process server by the time your 15-day expires. What is happening? I know we're all rolling with it. Be very, very careful that if you have tenants that are vacating, you do not discuss any past due rents during the COVID period. Fair Housing will come knocking and talking, probably with a lawsuit in hand. It is now retaliatory for us to disclose to a prospective landlord what that tenant did during the COVID period. So make sure you're zipping your lips. I don't care what you ask them. What I'm very, very concerned about is what comes out of your own mouths. So be very careful. Think of COVID as a bubble, put everybody inside it, and don't talk about it. Best advice I could give you. We don't talk about things that happen during a global pandemic. Do you have any other questions for me? Is one of the ways that I would answer that. But don't give that information out. Don't tell them what your tenant did during the pandemic. That's going to get you in a big fat lawsuit for a lot of money very, very quickly. As simply as I could say this, if they were affected, they were protected. Okay. And that's how we all need to think about it, because at the end of the day, we were all affected. Every single one of us has had to buy masks and hand sanitizers, and we've had to change our daily rituals or our routines so that it accommodated this. Whether it takes us longer to go to the grocery store because of the line that we have to get in to go through the whole shopping process in 6 feet of distance. We've all been affected, some people more than others. And I had an owner, he had to drink more wine. Yes, we did. He had to kill that bacteria of COVID. Had a call from a landlord a couple weeks ago. This one hit home hard. And I'm going to share it with you guys. Landlord called up fast evict. I happened to answer the phone. He needs to do an eviction. His tenants haven't paid rent, and this is for the month of February. I said, okay, how far behind are your tenants? And he said, oh, they didn't pay this month. Okay, I got owners that haven't been paid since March, you know. I hear you, sir. Hang on. And he says, well, you know, the dad died of COVID back in January. And the mom died of COVID here a week ago. So wait a minute, let me get this straight. The mom died, the dad died. Who are you evicting? Oh, the 3 kids they left behind. They're 17, I think he said 14 and 7. Huh. I understand that there are a lot of tenants taking advantage of the pandemic and they are exercising their rights. I get that. But please, I beg you, remember there are people that are actually genuinely affected by this pandemic. Those 3 kids are a great example. They're now going to become part of the system if a family member doesn't step up. That alone is heartbreaking. Not everything in our jobs is sunshine and roses, you guys. We have to deal with the broken, the battered, the beaten, etc. So please be kind. If they're taking advantage of the situation or the laws is the way they sit, then that's them. Let them do that. That's their type of human. But for those people that have genuinely been affected and have severe loss from this, those are the people that we really need to get together and help. And it's not our job to determine who those people are. So we got to treat everybody the same. So let's just treat everybody like they lost somebody and try to be understanding and at the same time do our job. Okay? So understand, but we still have to do our job. That's all I'm trying to say is don't go stepping on anybody's feet or demanding that they haven't been affected by this because we don't always know the whole story. We don't always get both sides. We have to be careful, very careful of what we do and say, especially now with the retaliatory issues that were added in SB 91. Zip it. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you guys right now, use your fogging techniques, okay? Fogging. Thank you, Charles, if you're on today. I appreciate the term fogging. It's basically when we say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll let my supervisor know. It's a way for you to defer the problems so that you don't give the wrong answer. A fogging technique is something that you would use when you walk in, when somebody says, why don't you come on over? I want to show you a problem. And you walk in the front door and the ceiling is hanging down and water's running out of it. This is not the time for you, the professional, to panic, okay? Oh, lovely. Let's go shut off the water and we'll give my supervisor and the landlord a call. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You put in your fogging techniques. So when you guys don't know what to say, please, I beg you, use those fogging techniques. They help tremendously for in the moment. We don't have to have all the answers all the time. We can put a fogging technique in there to delay them getting that answer so that you don't say the wrong thing. Very important. What comes out of your mouth will hang you. I saw something, let me just see what it is. I was told by Fast Evict not to go for the 80-20 because I am not evicting for non-payment of rent, even though I have not received rent for 6 months. Okay, maybe Fast Evict didn't understand what you're saying regarding the money, okay? You can't be in eviction and applying for the money. That's not how it works. If you haven't been paid for months and you're not evicting, this is your chance to go after that money. If you're in an eviction, you don't qualify. If you void your eviction, then you could qualify for the funds, but I don't know how difficult it's going to be to get those funds or how long we're going to have those funds before they run out. Don't be afraid that corporate America is coming steamrolling us and is going to take all the money. That's not the case. Their delinquencies are 5% or less. Why, I get asked? It's a difference between a professional manager and a non-professional property manager. Okay, there's a technique and a dance, if you will, to keep that balance right. You have to keep that balance right. Uh-oh, somebody's invading us. Hippie aliens. Somebody please mute yourself, whoever it is. We can hear you and it's loud. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about today?
I have a question, Patty. This is David.
Hi, David.
Patty, let's just assume, I know you said it won't happen. Let's just assume they actually do run out of money and you have applied for accepting 2080. If you, after you accept it and you still don't get the money because the money runs out, what situation are we going to be? Are you going to be able to only collect 80% from the tenant, or we have to go back to the small claim court? What scenario we'll be dealing with?
If you fail in getting the 80-20 money, your second choice of option is for the tenant to pay that 25% of all the delinquent months on or before June 30th, and you to do a small claims action starting on August 1st for the 75% balance. For those of you that are going that route, I'm sorry, the chances of you getting your money are slim to none.
No, I'm not going that route. I'm just saying that I did apply.
Understand, but I'm also telling everybody else, if you're trying to avoid taking the government's money and going the other direction, it's the worst case scenario, in my opinion. A tenant can easily file bankruptcy and now that money's gone and you don't get it anymore. Wage garnishments are not an easy thing to do. Otherwise, all property managers would be doing them all the time. Just saying. It's a whole nother process, like doing an eviction, but different, if that makes sense. You still have the sheriff involved. The sheriff, you get the writ of execution from the sheriff. You then serve that to the employer. The employer then garnishes the wages and sends the money to the sheriff's department, not to you. So there's a lot of moving pieces there that people don't understand happens, but it's somewhat similar to an eviction process, just for collections. It's just a little different, but it's somewhat of a similar process. So I don't see that landlords are going to have that capability or that knowledge. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. I know this much. Okay, this much, maybe this much, but I don't know everything. I'll own that all day long. So you're going to see a lot more professionals helping with that debt collection, but it's going to be few and far between that we see landlords get paid from that. Just look at it as a regular debt the tenant owes, you know? Sometimes we see stuff sitting on credit reports for quite some time going unpaid. And I'll leave my statement at that. Okay. It's not pretty. Get up at 5 a.m., set an alarm, no joke. Go after this government money like nobody's business, because when it's gone, it's gone. And I'll tell you, it's not going to be from corporate America coming and swooping it up. They don't have a problem like us independent landlords do. It's not an eye for an eye. They could have 20 units vacant and not be affected the same way an independent landlord is affected when they have one unit go non-payment. Okay? Different playing field. Like I try to tell everybody, we're all in the same storm. We really are. But we're in different boats. Some of us are on a life raft and some of us are in a yacht, okay? We're all in the same storm. We have to remember that. Some of us are just fighting for it in different ways than others. Okay, I saw something else come through and then I'll answer questions that people have. If the tenant has left, can we apply for the 80-20? Okay, let me explain the 80-20 program to you guys, okay? They're not helping nail salons. They're not helping hair salons. They're helping landlords. And there's a reason why they're helping landlords. Go leave it to the government, but they always have an ulterior motive. If the government doesn't step in and do something, half of the state of California will be homeless in the next 6 months. Half the state. Why do I say that? Why do I come up with these numbers? Why do I know this? Think about it this way, you guys. 78% of our state is tenant occupied. That's 3/4 of the state. 60% of that number isn't paying their rent. 60%. That's half the state of California. Do the math. Half the state of California is currently in eviction or close to being evicted. So the government's stepping in, doing what they can to help to avoid half the state becoming homeless. It's very simple. It's a great program they're offering. It's a bailout from the government to us landlords. Finally, we're being heard. We're sick of being crapped on. We've had enough. But hopefully this program initiates less homelessness, not more homelessness, because if it continues to go the way that it's going, that's the way that this is going to end up, is half the state's going to be homeless. I mean, think about it. All these independent landlords, when their units go vacant, it's an eye for an eye. Nobody's helping me make that mortgage but my tenant. And my tenant doesn't pay, that's when things get helter-skelter. So with that being said, please know that that's part of the balance. And when you have an independent landlord, somebody needs to mute themselves. And it's not me. Somebody's gonna hunt them down and tell us who it is. Please mute yourself. We can hear you. Pretty please. My people are gonna find out who you are. And they're gonna go tell me to mute you.
Okay. Yeah.
April's on a mission. She's gonna find out who did it. See, look, everybody's already tattletaling. I can't even say that. Surrender.
I'll call you.
Surrender. Can you mute your phone, please?
I'll call you. Okay, bye. 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 Bye.
Can you mute your phone, please? Where it says mute in the bottom left corner. Thank you. If I ever do that, you guys yell at me. Hey, Patty, we can hear you. All right. Oh, let me see. Does anybody have questions? Be careful what comes out of your mouth. Remember, these are when the big lawsuits start. This is when we see big lawsuits happen, is after something like this, when we've seen a major change in law, pandemics happen, or what I like to call just a crisis. I was going to use a different analogy, but it probably wasn't very ethical for everybody. I call it a oh, holy shit. But it is. It's when something major happens. We have a major earthquake. We have a major flood. This time it's an illness. It's a pandemic. That's when we see a lot of lawsuits come out. So if you don't want to be in the headlines and you don't want to spend all that money on legal counsel, I strongly, strongly suggest that you err on the side of caution about what comes out of your mouth, and be sure that you're not retaliating by giving out tenant information during the pandemic when they're checking credentials going forward. They were affected, they're protected. That's what you got to remember, is everybody's protected like this giant bubble. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Somebody needs to mute themselves. Look and see if you got taken off of mute by accident, because we can hear you.
And I got my homework, I've got all my stuff. And then I realized I need somebody to hold me accountable.
Surrender.
So I hired the beginning of this month.
I can't mute them. I can't do nothing. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry.
It was recommended to me by somebody else.
Anybody have any questions?
Me accountable.
Any questions?
Asana now, which is a great project management tool.
Surrender, we can hear you. Please press mute.
When are you going to deliver this? And so I'm the sort of person, I'm so responsible that
all right, you guys, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to get off of here. I know it was a short day today, but rather than have the battle of keeping quiet.
Hi, Patty, I have a question for you.
Sure, what you got?
Just when I just got in here late, and with all the distractions, I couldn't really hear. First of all, how often you have these webinars?
How, I'm sorry, how what are the webinars?
How often?
I do them every Wednesday at noon.
Okay. And now, can you tell me, how can we apply for this 80/20, this government? How can we apply as landlords?
It's a website you go to. It's housingiskey.com. And I'll put it in the link at the bottom.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do it. Please do yourself.
Like, can you believe today's already the 3rd of March? We're in January, in February, right? I mean, the days just fly by.
Okay, I put it at the bottom. It's housingiskey.com, so you guys can see it there in the chat. I hope that came up, housingiskey.com. and you go there on the morning of the 15th and apply online. Do not use any of the notices that are on that website. They're not compliant with California civil process or California civil procedure. So they're for informational purposes only. Don't use the notices that they provide on that website, but you can apply there because it's a federal program. I think they're gonna run on federal time. So I'd set your alarm for 5 a.m. and have your TIN number, no, I misspoke, your APN number available off your tax bill. If we pay them every year in our property taxes by our APN number, wouldn't they recognize the APN number when they want to pay us? I mean, we might want to be able to speak their language. Just saying.
One more question. Is this
Sure,
the
sure.
same as the San Diego Housing Commission rent relief? It's a different thing.
Correct. They could administer some of the funds through some of the county programs to get started. For the most part, on the 15th, you should be able to apply for it directly.
Thank you.
No problem. So Patty, should we do a 15-day notice this month with their total balance owed before you apply? I would. Today's the day, folks. You can serve a notice today, 15-day, pay rent or quit. But I would definitely do that today. Anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to end it for today. And we'll be back next
Patty,
Wednesday.
just
Yes.
this is David.
Hi, David.
I just wanted to, yeah, okay. So this time, this is unrelated, but this time when we connected with Zoom, everybody by default was unmuted. The times before, everybody by default was muted. That's why you were having a lot of problems. Maybe your IT can fix this problem. Okay, by default, everybody gets muted and then they can individually unmute themselves.
It's the difference between me doing a class where we don't want a bunch of interruptions versus us doing this where we interact with each other. So when I do a class, you're absolutely correct. My IT comes on, mutes everybody, so that's not a problem. When we do the Wednesdays with Widget, you're live all the time unless you mute yourself. So just something that I'm going to try to remind people as they're logging on is please make sure you're muted. If you don't want us to see you, turn off your video because we can hear you. And please know we can see you too. So I'll do better in announcing that when I first come on for Widget's Way, but it's so you can unmute yourself and ask me questions that I have that. If we continue with these interruptions, and I'll be honest with you, today is the first time that we've had this as a problem. But going forward, if it continues to be a problem, I'll talk with my IT guy. We'll reboot, reload, and we'll take a different approach so that it doesn't happen again, you guys. I'm sorry. I will tell you, it is getting a little warmer on the East Coast. We still have snow, but it's warmer. I'm in just a sweater today, so it's much better. At least I'm not freezing. Anybody have anything else? And let me just double check. Because right now it's pretty much, oh, how would we calculate the median income for each city? I actually have the list on my website. You're welcome. I believe it's also on Fast Eviction's website. We have the median income chart for Southern California. So it breaks it down by occupant and income rate. So yay. What good is serving a 15-day notice if you can't do anything about it? You can do something about it. You can file an eviction about it if they don't turn in their declaration. Evictions are taking about 6 months, uncontested. So it's a battle. It's a battle, but there is something you can do about it. We're starting to see the courts get more involved. The CDC's no eviction moratorium through March has been revoked. I mean, we're starting to see a lot of people pulling back restrictions. Governmental agencies are getting sued. A lot of things are happening. Texas is completely opening mask free. We'll see how they do. We'll figure it out as we go along, guys, but we're going to have a lot more changes here in the rapid in the rapid future, before June 30th, we're gonna have a lot of changes from a lot of states. Just my opinion, but we're gonna start seeing things opening up. The numbers aren't flying off the charts. The numbers everybody's focused on now is when can we get vaccinated and how long is that gonna take? So that seems to be the focus, not hospitals being inundated. That doesn't seem to be an issue right now, for the most part.
Okay, so
Patty,
Yeah,
Patty,
thank-
Patty,
Yes,
this
yes.
is, this is Karen. Just a quick
Hi, Karen.
question. Hi, just a quick question on the 80/20.
Uh-huh.
The only way you can apply for that 80 is if the person is totally not paying. If I got a person that's kind of like slow paying, they're paying their rent, but they're not on time, but they are, making partial payments here, but they're getting it done. Would I be eligible to, apply for that 80 or no? It's only when they're not paying at all, right?
Okay, everybody, please listen to me. Make sure there are no late fees on your ledger and no other charges but rent. Okay,
Right. Mhm.
unless you have utilities that have always been there. Okay, hear me out, please. The government will pay you 80% that's past due on your tenant's ledger. That means for the entire time of COVID.
Okay, so
they-
that it,
If they've paid you 25% and they still owe you 75%, apply for the 80%. If they pay you 80% of what's owed on the tenant's ledger, you're done here. It's over with. You gave
okay,
away 20%, move on. That's the best program is the 80/20.
okay, so I'm still kind of confused. I've got one, like I'm saying, they pay half. They pay
So
half.
now the government's gonna give you 80% of the balance that's owed.
Wait a minute, they pay half on 1 week and then 2 weeks later they pay the balance.
The
Still?
government will pay you 80% of the past due balance that's owed.
Okay, gotcha. I got it. I got
I
it.
don't know another way to say it.
I
The
got it.
government will pay, I'm
Okay.
trying to think, is there an easier way to break it down? No, it doesn't matter. They'll pay 80% of the past due balance that's on your ledger. No late fees, you guys, big no-no, and no rent increases throughout the whole pandemic. If you did it, you need to undo it. I told you not to. You should have listened. I had an idea. Hey, and for those of you that did listen to me, yeehaw, because we're not having to go backwards, eat crow, and rebalance our books. Yay!
So can you give me your statement again? I'm sorry. Can you give me your statement again? This is Karen. When you have
The
to.
federal
refund-
government
Wait a
will
minute. No,
pay-
not that,
Oh.
not that. The late fees has got to be refunded, say back from November. Okay,
The late fees have to be refunded back from March of 2020
Okay.
going forward.
okay, so
There
give
can
me
be
Patty
no
Bird.
additional expenses to the tenant from March of 2020 through June of 2021.
So
No
give me Patty
additional
verbiage.
expenses.
So give me
What?
give me Patty's verbiage to refund that so you don't look stupid.
Well, I hate to say this, but it's all in perception, honey.
Oh, well, give me
So,
Patty verbiage.
What I would put on there is, thank you for being so patient with me with the ever-changing laws, changing as much as they do. Now that we have a better idea of what the rules are, we're making an adjustment on your ledger. Please take note that you now have a credit of blank amount of dollars for credit during the pandemic.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
But I would just blame it on the laws changing so much. Don't blame it on
Yeah.
anything you did or the owner did or nothing like that. Just blame it on the laws changing because they know the laws have changed like ridiculousness. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. I'm just gonna check and see if anybody else typed a question for section 8. Can you increase the rent if they, hold on. For section 8, can you increase the rent? They have to approve it. If you increase rents during a global pandemic, it's considered retaliatory. We're currently in a pandemic till June 30th. If they haven't been late at all during the pandemic, you could increase the rent, but I don't think it's ethical. So I wouldn't do it at all. I know it's a really hard thing for me to say because I'm always the one that's like, raise your rent $25 a year. Even if it's just $25 a year, you got to raise your rent every year just to remind the tenant that you're the one in charge and not them. Okay. But during this pandemic, don't do nothing. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. These rules are now starting to be more implemented, but in the beginning, they were ridiculous. You guys, come on. LA County has now completely lost their right to enter a property. What? It's no longer an evictable offense in LA County during the pandemic if you fail to allow entry. What? So hopefully come June 30th, we get our rights back on July 1st. It would be greatly appreciated. I know there's a lot of people that are trying to move into their homes. For renewing the lease, can you increase? No increases during the pandemic until after June 30th, or it could be considered retaliatory. And you're asking me a very specific question. I think that question should be directed to your legal counsel of what they're willing to argue in a court of law, because that's what it comes down to, is how well is their argument against a government order. Does that make sense to you? I wouldn't do it. There's not enough tea in China for me to do it. I don't like lawsuits. I don't like being named in them. Yes, I've been named in over 1,000 of them. I hate lawsuits. I hate getting sued. You guys should all feel the same way. My goal is to keep you out of court, not in it. If you're that determined to do a rent increase, contact your legal counsel and see what they advise you to do, because they're the ones ultimately that are going to have to defend you if a lawsuit arises by your actions. So just saying. For me personally, I've written my rent increase notice. It starts on July 1st. I'm thinking of gearing up to serve a 30-day notice to increase rent. What, on June 1st? No, I'd wait till July 1st and then serve it, because then you didn't even serve it during the pandemic. See how that worked? It wasn't even during the pandemic. How could it be retaliatory? So I got a feeling we're going to hear from Fair Housing too over when's a reasonable in time to increase rents and it not be considered retaliation. Okay, so very important there. Fair Housing's going to have a say so. And if I was going to give somebody a good rock solid piece of advice, this is what I would tell them. January 1st, 2022 is your ultimate safe date right now. Why do I say January 1st of 2022? It's the best business practice. We've waited 6 months after the pandemic ended on June 30th. 6 months from that would be January 1st of 2022. So if 6 months go by, Fair Housing says 180 days is a reasonable amount of time to wait and it not be considered retaliatory. So if you want the best business practice as it sits right now, that date's going to be January 1, 2022. As it gets closer, I may have more information, but for now, error on the side of caution, guys. This is where all the laws come from. This is where all the case law comes from. This is where all the nasty lawsuits evolve. Example, remember that lady in Northern California? Remember who raised her rent from $6,000 to $9,000? Because of all those fires in Northern California, and she did it while we were in a state of emergency. She is still in litigation. It's been almost 2 years. She is still in litigation. There is no case law from this yet. They are still spending money, paying those attorneys to defend them. We'll see how that comes out, and I'll let you know. But don't be that person. Don't be that person. It's expensive. I mean, how much money are we going to spend to prove we're right? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. How much money are you willing to spend to prove that you're right? Case law is no joke, you guys, and we don't want any part of those lawsuits. They're time consuming, they're costly. And those are the two most detrimental things in this business is time and money. Two most expensive things in this business, time and money. All right, you guys, if you have nothing else, I'm gonna get off of here for the day. My fingers are starting to get cold. The wind's picking up and there's still snow on the ground. How you doing out there in California? Are you cold? All right, you guys, if nobody has anything else, nobody.
Thank you, Patty.
No problem, no problem. If you guys need anything, you know how to find me, hunt me down. Next week, we should have a lot more information as it gets closer to applying for the money. Maybe we'll have a little bit more insight. Maybe we'll start seeing some of those funds being dispersed to county programs rather than just the state trying to administer all of it, but we'll see how it goes. All right, if you guys need me, hunt me down, okay? You have a great day. Bye-bye.